Hello, everyone. Sorry it took a hot second. Thank you all for coming to our event, the voiceover workshop at the East Brunswick Library. It's taken 3 years to get here, but we're finally doing this workshop. We're going to be using our recording studio as part of the Maker Studio a little bit later on. And I'm so happy to see you all here. Big thanks, like Melissa said, to East Brunswick Library, to the EB Friends of the library, and to Melissa for putting this all together and for setting things up. I know there's tons of tech issues that crop up now and again, but Melissa's been handling it like a champ. So let us proceed. I have to do both at once or else it won't go. So what are we doing today? We're doing a 45 minutes-ish of a lecture style presentation on voiceover. We're doing 15 minutes again-ish on Q&A and 30 minutes exactly voiceover workshop in the booth. It's not really going to be exactly. If we go over, that's quite fine. I just want to make sure that you all have the information that you need and that we have a lot of fun while we're doing it. So who am I? I'm Dennis Connors. I am a film, voiceover, and theater actor. I use he and they series pronouns. I'm from Sayreville, New Jersey. I grew up loving musical theater. I loved it so much that I went away to college to study it. But then at college, I went away even further to Hollywood and fell in love with film and TV and especially voiceover. I've always loved voiceover as a kid, be it animation or video games, and so I got into it as an adult. I'm also a big geek. I am the founder of Next Gen Acting, which is a new acting school in the area for kids, teens, and adults that specializes in film and voiceover, like we're doing today. And I am a dog dad and an expectant dad of a kid coming in May 2023. So I'm very excited about that. Thank you. Has everyone heard voiceover before? You could raise your hand if you're in person or go on movies. Yeah. Kids movies, animated. Yeah, Despicable Me with all of the minions running around. Where else?
Any animated show.
Any animated cartoons, anime. Absolutely. Audiobooks. Oh my gosh. I don't think I read a book anymore. I just listen to them.
Phone hold menus.
Phone hold menus. That's a good one. Absolutely. I was working on my business's phone hold menu this week and I was recording in my booth. So I know that all too well. Video games. Absolutely. And nowadays, video games, they put all of the green dots on your face so that they can match the expression on your face with the character that they're developing. Where else? Some fire exits. Not this one, I don't think, but fire.
Well, we do have intercoms that tell people when the library is closing.
Oh, the intercom system. Yeah, even, did you produce it here?
The TV producer recorded it. So when you hear the library is closing in 30 minutes, 15, he's the voice of the library.
Oh, excellent. Yeah, and it's same thing if you're at Disney World, right? Long story short is voiceover is everywhere. It's in our presentations. I could have just voiced over myself and made this into a video, but we're here in person, so you get the live actual experience. Audio systems for phones, anime. We didn't talk about toys, but toys that you press a button and they speak, they're everywhere. NJ Transit, when they say, please hold for the door, that kind of thing, as well as podcasts, right? Serial made it super popular for podcasts to be listened to. I know I couldn't stop listening to that one myself. As well as announcers as a part of sports events and some esports events too. But we can break all of voiceover into 3 categories. The one that people know best is character and animation, what's in the movies, what's in the cartoons, what's in the video games. That's when you're embodying a character, you're choosing what emotions you have, not necessarily what words you're saying, but you can choose a voice for that specific character, right? Then there are 2 other pools. There are commercial and narration. I'm gonna start with narration. Narration is a little bit more simple. Think back to when you were in school and you listened to your favorite teacher read you a book. That's a good narrator. It's about the storytelling. It's about engaging the audience. And it's about the voiceovers of over actors' ability to connect with the audience and for them to clearly understand what they're saying and why they're saying it, right? And they're not just, when you're listening to the book, not trailing off into thinking of something else that's not a part of it. Right? And commercial is kind of a blend of all 3. Commercials on the radio, you might hear them have a character. I did a voiceover the other day where I had to embody a character as part of a commercial. Commercials can also be narration. This is the product. This is how you use the product. This is why you love the product, right? And then there's a certain kind of blend that mashes it all together. It's the friendly neighborhood sound. That's the commercial sound, where it doesn't sound like it's a voiceover actor. It sounds like someone that you know, someone down the street. And those are more popular than you can imagine. Voiceover as a business versus the voiceover business. I think in this category, we're not going to spend too much time here because I want to give you all the tools to be able to use before we get into you using it as a business. But there's the voiceover industry, which kind of works like any other type of entertainment industry. There are agents, there are managers, there are casting directors, and there are producers. So the producers have a project and they go to casting directors and say, hey, I need to figure out all the people that I want to hire to sound like X, to sound like Y, to sound like Z. Then the casting director contacts all of the agents that they know and say, hey, do you have specific actors and actresses that can play these different roles that can sound like this specific sound? Then they reach out to all of their actors, they send in auditions and they choose, and then the producers will rent out a studio, bring everyone in, you record it, everybody gets paid. That's the end of the business. That's how the entertainment industry can work in a very, very simplified manner. The cool thing about voiceover and what I've experienced is as a voiceover actor, as opposed to being a theatrical actor or an on-camera actor, I can think of my voice acting as its own business. There are small businesses everywhere. And just like we discussed, there is voiceover everywhere. And these small businesses that might not be able to afford the casting directors and the producers and the agents and all the people that get paid down the line, they can go to mom and pop voiceover actors that have their own recording studio at home, and they can help make them ads, record them audio for their phone answering machines, and all of the different places that we talked about, which that's one huge benefit to the voiceover business. The other benefit is that there's so much voiceover work, even in the traditional voiceover industry, and so many auditions that you really can't deny it if you were trying to start an acting career in general. Okay. So we have a bunch of VO pro tips throughout the night. This is my first one. It's called the cilantro philosophy. So who here likes to eat cilantro? Some people. So I'm seeing some big negatives over there. Why don't you like cilantro? The genetic predisposition to think that it tastes like dish soap. That's exactly what I'm talking about in this cilantro philosophy. Everyone has different tastes. Aesthetic taste, actual taste, chemical taste, biological taste. There is room for every type of voice in the voiceover industry, just as there's room for any type of actor in the acting industry. Everyone just has different tastes. What do you need to get started in a voiceover career? Business acumen and a working knowledge of the industry, the two things that I was talking about before. How does the industry work and how can you work as a business? Knowledge of the craft. So we're going to be workshopping that a little bit later on with our scripts, but speaking, being confident in the way you speak and the way you make choices for the script. Because a lot of the times that you are recording at home, you're not working with another human. You have to send in 3 takes and make your own choices. So how do you discern which choices you want to record and which one you want to send in? Basic audio editing. Practice, 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 and persistence, persistence, persistence. I audition between 10 and 20 times a week. How many jobs do I get a year? A handful, right? It's a numbers game. I get probably 100 or so callbacks and put on hold each year, but it just keeps, you have to keep going or else you're not going to get the jobs. And when they do come, you can get a pretty big payout, especially if you're doing commercial. Foundations of voice. So question for everyone here. What makes sound in your body? Vocal cords?
Larynx.
Larynx?
Pulmonary.
Your airflow? Okay, yeah. What else makes noise in your body? Everything resonates in your mouth. Absolutely. The articulators. Resonance pitch. It's a trick question. Every part of your body makes noise. But really, when you talk, all the vibrations that you make with your breath support will go throughout the muscle, throughout the tissue, throughout your bones and your cartilage, and it will vibrate. And that's what makes your vocal imprint unique to you. But what are we going to focus on? The diaphragm, the lungs, what you use to breathe, your lips, your teeth, the tip of your tongue, those are your articulators. So that's how you make the different consonant sounds. And of course, your jaw. And your jaw is the big villain in the room because it's the thing that always gets tight. And you need to unlock your jaw so that you can be as creative and open as possible. So I have a couple of basic warm-ups for you. Because voiceover uses your whole entire body, you want to stretch out and make yourself a little bit more mobile because you're going to be using all of that, especially if you're going to do character or animation stuff. So I do spine rolls. I don't know if the video can see me, but the first thing I'll do is I'll roll down my spine, starting with my neck and then down the rest of my vertebra. Like this. We get to the bottom, I'll shake it on the bottom. I'll nod my head, yes. Shaking my head, no. And then imagine my spine stacking back up vertebra by vertebra. And then you could do other physical, warm-ups to get yourself into it. I'd like to do light face massages. You'll get a lot of tension in your jaw like we talked about before. I take the palms of my hand and right where your jaw locks into your skull, I massage around there. So you can try that if you wish. A little bit above it, a little bit below it. Oh my gosh, I was working with kindergartners and first graders today, so my jaw is really tight. Nostril breaths, oh, that's supposed to be panting. Excuse my typo there. But what are nostril breaths? So one way that I tap into vocal support pretty quickly is I'll do this, and this is something that I haven't done since COVID, but I'll literally close off one nostril. Breathe in the one side, and exhale out the one side, then change. And then I'll inhale in the one side and exhale on the other side and opposite, back and forth. That helps you get really, really in tune with your breath and panting. If there's one way that you want to wake up in the morning so quickly, take 15 seconds and pant like a dog. It will get your oxygen flowing and you will be awake. It's something that I do all the time, especially if I'm very sleepy and I have an audition due at 9 in the morning. So just and I'll take a couple of deep breaths. So that's a couple of breath exercises. Another thing that, well, I'll teach one more. One thing that I've been working with my students a lot lately is their breath support. So they breathe in for a 4 count. So breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hiss out for an 8 count. So what I'll do is I'll ask them if they felt like they needed more breath, if they felt like they were struggling to continue, or if they felt like they had so much breath and they could have gone to 12 or 16 or 20, right? When you are doing voiceovers, what you want to think about with your breath is each time you breathe in, that's one entire thought. You want to get through one line of dialogue, right? So you breathe in and all of that breath should be used up by the time that sentence is over. If you feel like you have a little bit extra oxygen, that means you didn't put it all into supporting that line. The opposite is true. If you feel like you're struggling to maintain that whole entire line, then there's something wrong with the way that you're breathing. My favorite warm-ups are tongue twisters. So your articulators, right? The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. If you say that really quickly, that is a great warm-up. The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. The lips, the teeth, the tip of the tongue. There's an infinite amount of tongue twisters, but they can get you really warmed up like this, right? Because it requires both your mind and your articulators, your breathing, the whole 9 yards. And then some other basic warm-ups are lip and tongue stretches. So I imagine I play ping pong in my mouth with my tongue. So if you close your mouth and do it 20 times back and forth. A lot of people have tension in their tongue because their tongue goes down to right here. And so when you do tongue stretches like that, it helps alleviate some of that tension there. Does this all make sense to everybody? VO pro, there's multiple. VO pro tip number 2, taking care of your voice and body are important. So sleep, hydrate. I'm definitely not hydrated enough right now. And warm up. Every time you're going to practice, every time you're going to rehearse or record, make sure you're warming up your breath, your articulators, your mind, and your body. Voiceover pro tip number 3, time management is health care. Auditions and gigs happen at all hours of the day. Pushing or straining your voice can be harmful for your business. If you're spending all of your voice in that one audition in the morning, how are you going to be healthy to do your 5 o'clock recording session, right? You want to manage your time so you can manage your health. Fundamentals of voice. This is where we have a little bit of fun. Bringing sound to life through the spoken word. So in this section, I have a bunch of aspects of voice that I want to talk about. So this first one is pitch, the property of a sound, and especially a musical tone that is determined by the frequency of the waves producing it, highness or lowness of sound. Do you guys recognize the 2 actors on screen? They represent the sheer opposite spectrums of pitch. James Earl Jones with his low, sultry voice, and Gilbert Gottfried with his high-pitched wailing almost, right? Oh, VO pro tip number 4, going up and going down. So pitch isn't only inherent in your natural voice, in the character that you're trying to present, but it can change up the copy that people hear. If I am talking like this up and down and up and down and up and down, that doesn't sound reliable. It doesn't sound like that's a person that you can believe. So a commercial, a narration isn't going to sound like that. Going up and going down. But going up at the end of a sentence will make it sound like a question, right? That is key. Asking and answering questions, especially if you do commercial voiceover, is what you're going to be doing all the time, because I'd say 60 to 75% of all commercial copy is a question answer, a problem solution type piece of script. And going down, if you ever want to show that you're an authority on an idea, on a project, or whatnot, you want to go down on your line. I'm Dennis Connors, and I'm presenting this workshop at the East Brunswick Library. It commands authority. If I was asking, I'm Dennis Connors, and I'm presenting this workshop, right? I come across like a little less mature, right? So that's a huge tip, especially for voiceover. Diction, vocal expression, enunciation, pronunciation and enunciations of words and singing, choice of words, especially with regards to correctness, clearness, or effectiveness. The opposite spectrums that I've chosen for diction are zombies, because I sound like this, I won't breathe, right? All their muscles are dead, so they really can't articulate things. And on the opposite side of the spectrum, you have computer robots, Siri, Jarvis from Iron Man. Hello, how may I help you, sir? Because those kind of robots need to make sure that the humans understand them clearly and correctly. 2 other examples, if you've seen My Fair Lady, it's a whole entire show about how to pronounce things correctly. The rain in Spain falls mainly in the plain, right? And another example in the opposite spectrum, if you've ever seen Little Nicky by Adam Sandler, he has this talk like this, Popeye's chicken is freaking awesome, right? So you can play around with diction and how that affects your characters. If you know something about your character's history, where their body or their face and articulators have been affected by either an illness or some kind of other restraint, you might want to play around with diction. Or if that character is inebriated, if they're a little bit drunk, they might start slurring their words, which has everything to do with diction. Tone, style or manner of expression in speaking or writing. Seemed wise to adopt a conciliatory tone. I've chosen these 2 photos because the couple on the left look like your parents. And your parents have a sort of tone with you, whether it's warm and inviting, or if you did something wrong. Well, it doesn't look like you did something wrong with these parents, well, because they're looking at you with such happiness, but maybe a little bit sternful when you've done something wrong. And that boss on the right, he's always talking down to you. There's a certain tone or quality in the way that we speak. Tone is mostly related to the story that we're telling. Who are we talking to? What are we trying to achieve? How are we going about achieving that objective that we want to achieve? And what's our relationship with those characters in the way? Pace, rhythm, rate of performance or delivery, especially speed, rhythmic animation, fluency. So on the left, I have Lin-Manuel Miranda, who is a master at speaking really, really fast and with rhythms that I could only imagine if there was 10 of me. And then Eeyore, who talks really slow. Two things to note about this aspect of voice is that you can speak really, really fast for a whole entire paragraph, right? Where every single word is fast in relation to that whole entire paragraph. I'm talking really, really fast. I'm talking really, really fast. I'm talking really, really fast, right? But then rhythm is where you mess around with fast and slow, right? I'm talking really, really fast. I'm talking really, really fast, right? And depending on what your character is trying to achieve, you're going to play around with pace and rhythm. If this is a commercial copy, a lot of commercials, you'll be told you only have 6 seconds to do this commercial. You only have 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute to do this commercial, but you have to say it in a way that you say it in that amount of time, but that it still comes across as clearly understood to anyone listening. How can you say all those words and make them understandable and then say them as fast as possible? That's your job as a voice actor. Volume, decibel. I like using decibel because when you're doing voiceover, you're literally using the gain and you see what the decibel is on the digital audio interface. But it's a unit for expressing the relative intensity of sounds on a scale from 0 for the average least perceptible sounds to about 130 for the average pain level. So I've included here a monologue from Lord of the Rings. It is an intro to this huge, huge fight, which said with such gusto. And how would it sound if I whispered it? Hold your ground, sons of Gondor, of Rohan, my brothers. It doesn't make sense. Volume is so important when you're talking to other people for a variety of reasons. If you're trying to inspire them, you're not going to do that by speaking with a low, mumbly voice. Right? It doesn't make sense. If you're at a coffee shop with your friends or, a date, you don't want to be loud and obnoxious so that everyone can hear you. It's more intimate. Who you're talking to affects the way that you say things. This is huge and why I'm spending so much time on it, because when you get behind a microphone, you're going to want to feel like you have to shout, that you have to be louder than you actually need to, sometimes in the exact same way that I might be a little bit more loud right now than I need to presenting because we get excited. But I just invite you, especially if it's supposed to be more of an intimate read, to think about how would you talk if the person was just a couple of feet in front of you. Okay, so those are our fundamentals. When you get stuck in your head, remember them: pitch, diction, pace, tone, decibel. And I have 5 more VO Pro tips, and we'll go through that. Your voice is unique. It's not a cliche. When you think of voiceover, at least this is what I think right off the bat, is that really commanding announcer voice. Next time on American Idol, right? But 95% of the voiceover jobs isn't that. 95% of the voiceover jobs is your authentic, unique vocal speaking pattern. You should embrace it because that's what they want to hear. They don't want to hear someone that's overselling something to them. So booming theatrical voices, radio announcer voices, car salesman, and anything in that ilk will most likely be jobs that you are not auditioning for. In fact, there's probably like 4 or 5 people that do those jobs and they keep getting those jobs. That's their unique voice. Concentrate on your unique voice. You got to accentuate the positive. This is something I live by every day, but smiling when you record can do wonders. If you're recording a commercial script, try doing that pouting. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. Do you want a Coke after something like that? No, you don't, right? But ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it. When you have your cheeks up there in the air, it's going to sound different. It's going to resonate different, like we talked about. Before I go on to the next thing, I forgot to say something when I was talking about resonators. One question that I'm asked all the time is, why does my voice sound different when I record and listen back to it than it does in my head when I'm saying it out loud? The reason why is pretty simple. Because when you're speaking, all the vibrations are happening right here from your all the way up and in between your jaw and into your ear. So that is influencing what you're hearing when you're speaking. And that will make your voice that you hear in your head a lower pitch voice than what your voice actually is to others. So when you record your voice, that's more like what we're hearing when you're speaking to us. Does that make sense? Cool. Visualization. If the VO is not partnered VO voiceover, visualize the person in your life who would use the product you're selling, or the person whom you can be the most relaxed talking to. The most relaxed part goes back to the not being pushy when you're doing commercial or other types of voiceovers. And when you're imagining talking to your dog or your loved one, it can make you feel more at ease and more in the zone to do what you need to do. Laugh, darn it. Make yourself laugh while recording. Be silly and outrageous. It's the best way to get out of your dang head. I told you before, I audition like 10 to 15 times a week. And at least 7 to 8 of those each week, I have to make myself laugh. I am in my own room talking to myself with my microphone. No one can hear me. I'm saying the same thing over. If I am not making myself laugh, I am going to go insane. So and the other part of it is when you're having fun, everyone else is having fun. So if you make yourself laugh, that take is probably going to resonate with someone else that's listening. And last, VO pro tip number 10. Never let anyone tell you that emulation or imitation is limiting in this field. Start by listening and imitating to the best in the business. Plus, you can research how they become successful in voiceover. When I was very young, I started teaching myself how to sing. On the news, all of these patriotic singers were singing God Bless America and the national anthem right after tragic events of 9/11. And that really resonated me. The singers really were bringing other people together. And so I taught myself how to sing like God Bless America with that voice support. And I went to my first singing lesson, and it was this girl who was straight out of college. It was one of her first voice lessons that she was teaching. She was like, you need to stop imitating so much. And it really broke my heart. And as an adult, I can understand, because you need to find your own voice. And I want to stress that to other people, that we all need to celebrate and find our own unique voice. But imitation and emulation is how we all learn. It's how we all learned when we were kids. It's how we all learn every single day, even when we don't think about it. We're always emulating how people are acting, their different facial expressions, how people say things. That's why things go viral, honestly. So use that emulation and that imitation to learn your own craft and for that to influence your voice. And then with that being said, I'm only one teacher. What resonates, what I say may resonate with you, it may not. Pick and choose the things that you take from other people. If something I say works for you, take it and use it. If it doesn't, if it's like causing you stress or anxiety, throw it away. At the end of the day, you being a part of the process and you having fun during the process is what matters. That makes sense? Perfect. I just talked so much, and I talked way too fast. I hope that you understood everything. I kind of want to open it up to questions, and then we'll have extra time for questions and for workshop. Do any of you have any questions about voiceover, about what I had for lunch today? What did I have for lunch today? I don't know. But I had an egg scramble for breakfast and it was delicious. Yeah.
What's your favorite? What part of voiceover is your favorite thing? Your love.
So I love animation. I love creating characters. So the acting, and voice acting, because when you do narration and commercials, sometimes it might feel like it's not acting, like you're really getting into the character. So one of my favorite experiences, I recorded this podcast called 6 Minutes. It's each episode is 6 minutes long, and there's these kids that get superpowers, and they're trying to discover who the villain is, and it's this giant corporation. And in that podcast, I play this villain that can like throw fireballs from my hands at these kids, and I track them down. And it was so much fun to play this villainous person, because in real life, I'm so the opposite. I can't even hurt a fly. But that's my favorite thing.
2 questions which are basically the same questions. How do you search for auditions or find voiceover opportunities?
Excellent, excellent. Oh, that's a great transition. So the question was, how can I find voiceover opportunities / auditions? So I have a lot of information to share on that. I'm just trying to figure out what order I want to share it first. Long story short, all of these sites that I listed on this handout are sites where you can find auditions, but I want to put that with a big caveat, because a lot of these websites are pay to play. I don't think that any person should pay to play unless they are prepared and that they know exactly as a business what they are getting into. So as a business in voiceover, 2 main things that you need to have are a website. So everyone knows exactly where all that traffic can go to. They know how to communicate with you. You have a way to put up any announcements. And it's also a way for you to show off your work. As a beginning voiceover artist, it's kind of catch-22. How do you get work? You need to show off how good you can do voice acting. How do you show off how well you do voice acting? By showing off what you did for work. How do you get started? You have to create a demo reel. In voiceover, there are 3 types of demo reels. There's commercial demo reel, a narration demo reel, and a character demo reel. Each of the demo reels should be about a minute long. It depends on the reel. Like a character animation demo could be longer. A commercial demo reel will be more on the short end. If you go to any reputable voiceover agency's website, you can listen to almost all of their actors' commercial narration character demos that have. My agent in New York and in LA is Atlas Talent. If you go to their website, you just Google Atlas Talent, you can see all the commercial voiceover demo reels, all the narration. It's really, really cool. That can give you some ideas for what scripts are typically required in a demo reel. But it would be up to you and either a coach or a different service to write out the scripts, to record them, to edit them, to make that package. And then you take that demo reel and put it on your website. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of businesses that make a ton of money making those demo reels. My big asterisk on that again is do not pay any money unless you know exactly what you're getting into and you know that this is what you want. And you know exactly how you want to make the demo reel. There's a lot of these businesses that will use the same scripts over and over again with all of their clients. And then so these casting directors, these agents are hearing that same thing over and over and over again, and then they tune it out, and then you're not at the top of the list for these auditions. Once you have your demo reel, all of these casting sites that are on this page will be a lot more fruitful for you. Casting Call Club is a very, very new website. They don't have a monthly fee. They have some classes that they do, but they put out a lot of beginners and amateur auditions. There'll even be some gigs that you can audition for and book that are completely free. They might be a fan series or something like that. That's a really good way to get your teeth grinded on some. I don't know what that phrase is. I tried just using it, and I just don't like grind your teeth on it. I think that's grind your teeth in. Get your teeth into. Yeah, dig into it. So you can use Casting Call Club to dig your teeth into really beginners work. Backstage, Actors Access, and casting networks, they have auditions. All 3 of these services have a lot of theater, film, and TV auditions on their platforms as well. They're not specialized for voiceover. Actors Access, I believe, is $68 a year. Backstage is $150, and Casting Networks, I believe, has a monthly fee. Voices and Voices 1, 2, 3 are interesting, and I would do my research before spending your money on it. I've been on both, and I've booked jobs off of both in the past. They charge either yearly or monthly fees depending on what tier membership you choose, and they have between 5 and 10 auditions that you can get a day on either of those services. And all the companies, they post their scripts, exactly what they want, and they'll say, I'm going to charge between $300 and $500 for this project. And then all the actors that put in their auditions say, hey, I want $400 if you book me, right? That's kind of how those two websites work. Some voiceover actors don't like Voices 1, 2, 3, but that's a very, very long conversation. These would be the main places that I would look for acting jobs. And like I said before, as a business in and of itself, once you get your demo reel, there's nothing stopping you from hooking up with your local businesses, small businesses that might need some help with their online presence or with radio ads or with their phone service. So once you have proof of what you can do, then sending them a DM or an email and collaborating with them, that has gotten me work a bunch. So I highly suggest that. Any other questions from the chat?
We were laughing about the sink your teeth into it. Can you do this part-time? Can you do voiceover part-time?
Yeah, especially for beginners, it's not something that you can easily start making money that you can pay all of your bills with, especially right off the bat. So I would highly suggest going at it part-time. Like I would say start part-time, get your demos together, start booking some jobs, getting that money coming into the account, make your website, start reaching out to other small businesses. And then as you grow that consistent money, you can then quit your other job.
The next question is, this is typically, obviously, it's job to job, the deadline between getting a job and sending in your work. So what's that turnaround of booking versus the turnaround time for once you get the gig?
Okay, so the question is, what's the turnaround time between when you get an audition, when you get a gig, and when it's due? So that can vary drastically depending on the project, but this is what I typically experience. I usually get an audition today. I've got 3 in my email box right now, and all 3 are due at either 10 a.m. tomorrow or 1 p.m. tomorrow, depending if it's for New York or whether it's for LA. If they really, really like me, they'll do what's called put on hold. So they say, oh, we really, really like you. This is the day we're going to record. Can you keep this available? And I keep it available. And the day of, they choose who they want. And then you either record at your own home in your recording booth or the booth that the company rented out. If that happens, that's called a live session. They're actually going to either be there at the recording studio with you, or they're going to be patched in via Zoom or Skype or Teams or whatnot. When that happens, the turnaround time is instantaneous, right? Because they get that live feed of that audio and they can edit it and take it away and do whatever they want. Who knows when they're actually going to run it? If I got a project that there wasn't a live session for, it usually, I guarantee 48 hours turnaround because this is what I do for most of my work. But I would say between 2 days and a week is usually the runtime. If it's a bigger project like a video game or a movie or an animated series, those will have a lot longer time spans and they'll work with you. Commercials are super, super, super tight turnaround. They're usually within 24 hours to 48 hours. Good question. Any other questions?
Something about, I don't know if it's just for like audiobooks or something. I'm not sure it's also commercials, but I've heard some people saying that when you look for a job or an audition, you can either just have record your voice or you can help produce it. That way you get whenever they play it.
Oh, residuals?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good question. What I was asked in the room was sometimes when there's voiceover, you can choose to be the producer, you can edit it and then get a cut of it or a different fee. You can also get residuals, which it pays every time you air if you're just an actor as well. Most of the time when you get residuals is for a commercial project that's a SAG project, that's a Screen Actors Guild, that's the union that represents the voiceover actors. So like I said before, voiceover as opposed to acting is more of a business, a small business that you own. And like that, you can also offer out producing services. So I know personally how to create phone systems, and I can do the voiceover to add to the phone systems. So I can go to any other small business and say, hey, do you have a phone answering system? No, great. I know how to use the service. I know how to produce it and put it together. And here's my whole entire fee for putting together the project, which would be more substantial than just being charged as an actor. Audiobooks specifically, they take so long. I don't really do audiobooks because you'll be in the recording booth for hours and hours and hours. And typically they'll offer you a set amount. Maybe for this whole entire book, it's $5,000. And if it's a bigger book, we'll pay you, if it hits 100,000 sales, we'll give you X amount of money. With those types of projects, you are usually hiring a sound engineer or a producer, because when you're saying, 10,000 words in a microphone, you want someone else's ears, organizing it, playing it back, because at that point it gets crazy. So then you have to pay the other people that you work with. And if you're hired on as a producer instead of as an actor, you might also have to pay the booking rates for a recording studio. So that's something else to be mindful of. If you're a producer, it might be holistic in that you'll have to take on some more costs. But in terms of residuals, one thing to highlight, I didn't put it on this list, but I have a really great rate sheet for beginners. It has all the different types of voiceover projects you can be hired for and what the average and beginner rate is that you should offer out if someone asks for a job. The voiceover industry is a very kindred one, so we all work with one another. And so we've put together these price lists to help other voice actors and small businesses get, paid appropriately for their services. So I'll have Melissa send that at the end. Usually when you get paid for voiceover, you get paid for the session, so as recording it, and you get paid for usage. So every single time they use it. If it's a non-union project, sometimes they'll do a buyout. So you'll get paid $200 for a session, and then we want to use it on every single type of TV or social media. We'll give you $3,000 for the whole year to use it as many times as we want. That's something that can happen in voiceover typically. But honestly, the bigger projects with residuals that you're getting paid, the usage fees, that's why you audition, hundreds of times, because if you get one or two or three of those, then they start adding up and they start paying. If you get a radio ad that's SAG, you get your usage fee, and then every time it airs on the radio, it's $5 a play. And then if it plays on Facebook and Instagram, you get $2,000 for the year. There's a whole entire calculator that calculates all of that out.
We have a question online.
Cool.
What can you do if you don't have a recording booth in the beginning? Is there an entry-level microphone? What kinds of resources, like what you're sitting in right now, are available?
Excellent. So how can you get started if you don't have a recording studio or if you don't have a place to record? Excellent question. So first off, you can come to the East Brunswick Library and use the Maker Studio. So they have a recording studio. You can rent that out. Melissa also sent me a link. You can rent out. They have a recording package, which comes with a couple of books What is that?
Yeah, the books, the iPad, and
The books, the iPad, and the microphone. So you have a whole entire kit. If you then get into it and want to buy your own equipment, this is what I have to say. The amount of money that you can put into fixing the space in which you record is much more valuable than the amount of money that you can spend on a new microphone. So what do I mean by that? If you get $1,000 microphone, the top of the line, and you're in a room with blank walls and echoing, and it doesn't work out. No matter how much money you spend on that microphone, it's not going to sound good. You can make a space sound really, really good by putting a lot of cloth in it sound panels. My big thing is I would go to Home Depot or Lowe's and I would pick up the moving blankets. They're like $30 or $40. Put them over some PVC pipe or put them on hangers in your closet, and you can turn your closet like this into a recording studio. Sometimes when I'm traveling, I shouldn't say this out loud, but sometimes I forget to tell my agents that I'm traveling and they send me an audition or they send me a job and I'm like, oh no, but I bring my microphone, and what I'll do is if I'm on vacation, I go into the hotel closet, put in all of my clothes, and it sounds really darn good. So as long as you're in a really contained space, it's going to sound good. And then after you rent out the equipment, and if you want to buy it, I really suggest getting an XLR microphone. You can get a Blue Yeti, which is a USB, which can sound really, really good. But when you get to the next echelon, these sound engineers can hear the difference in quality between a USB microphone and XLR. That'll require you to get a whole entire Focusrite type interface, which is also some money, but it's a great investment when you're at that point in your career. A lot of information. I'm a encyclopedia here. Any other questions, either in person or?
What were the three categories to create a demo reel? So
Commercial, narration, and character/animation.
Oh.
So a bunch of different characters that you can do. Then when you get further along, I've seen other professional actors have a creature demo reel, right? Or they'll have different animals that they can do. If they could do like horse sounds or dog sounds, and like there's 2 minutes of them just making all the different types of horse and dog sounds that they can make. I've seen, and there's also baby reels, but I would stick with the narration, commercial, and character before you get into all the other categories.
What if you sing commercial jingles?
Yes. So I'm actually a musical theater actor too. When my agent sends like jingle auditions, I love it. I absolutely love it, because guess what? The guy who goes ba da ba ba ba, I'm loving it, he gets paid every single time it airs, whether it's a radio ad, whether it's online social media, or whether it's the TV, right? So singing can really come in handy. Also, like Nickelodeon and Disney, in their TV shows and in their movies all the time, they're adding singing and dancing. Even Snoop Dogg, he has this whole entire kids series that he's doing on TikTok and YouTube, and he's blending singing and voiceover together with that medium. So yeah, absolutely. If you are a singer, then what I suggest is potentially coming up with a singing reel in addition to your commercial reel, your narration reel, and your character reel. And which one of those three that you start out with, because you can just start out with one, is up to you. On the East Coast, and especially for money reasons, my biggest suggestion is always to go with the commercial demo reel first. There's more commercial demo or commercial auditions than any of the other mediums, and commercials will pay more. So it's the best business decision overall.
You're going to use music. Is there a specific type of music that is preferable?
Behind the voiceover audition? So when you're doing auditions, I wouldn't use any music unless they ask for a specific one, because most of the time you're working with a producer who's going to do the music on their end.
But you were mentioning the real music.
Mm-hmm. So it depends on what commercial it is. So you would have to make it sound as much as that. So if you're trying to make a car insurance commercial, and it's supposed to be like trustworthy and reliable, right? So that kind of sound. What kind of music sounds like that, so that the music doesn't take away from what you're saying and your voiceover, because that should be what's featured 100%, but it adds to it. It brings it to the next level. And if you're recording it, feel free to send it my way, and I can give you some notes on it. Hi, everyone. So you're the people in person, you're only going to see me for a little bit. Oh, you can see the little version up here. So this is your quick class on Audacity. So the red button, when you press it, it's going to record. So it's recording me. It's picking up my audio. You can see that it's picking up my audio. That green up there is going. And down here, you can see my voice as it appears. You press this square, that stops it. This button if you press it, it goes all the way back. And if you press play, it'll play. I don't know if it's playing over on Zoom, so I don't know if you heard it when I played back. You can change the gain on this individual track by going up or down. I would keep it around here because the monitoring looked pretty good as we had it. When we press stop, you can mute this and record a second track, right? That second track will start right where this left off. You can create a new track by going to track, add new, mono track. And if it's blue and you press the red button, it'll start recording again. If you have two different tracks, since they were recorded separately, you can split them. You can drag and drop, depending on what you want to go first or second. It's pretty simple to use. You can also highlight sections. And you can use Command-C, Command-V to copy and paste sections if you are on Mac. On PC, I believe it's Control-C, Control-V. So I can copy that by Control-C, I can paste by Control-V, and that's exactly that audio track that I got over there. It acts exactly like if it was text and you were copying and pasting. That's important if you're trying to isolate a track or just take something out from one track and put it into the other. Today, all we're really focusing on is the recording button. And when we're done recording the project, you can save the project as. It'll save as a .aup file. So this could be EB workshop. That doesn't save an individual audio file. You have to go back to file to export and export as an MP3. Oh, it was all muted. So it fixed that mistake on me. All right. So export as MP3. It would be named the same exact file name, but .mp3. Then you can email it out. A real big tip for everyone. When you're doing auditions, you always want to send an MP3 file. If they ask, if they don't ask, send an MP3 file. If you are recording a project, you want to export as a WAV file. That's an uncompressed file. That's as easy as pressing this button rather than the MP3 button. This is going to be a larger file. You may have to use a service like iCloud or Google Drive or Dropbox to send it. But the audio engineer can use the WAV file and edit it in much more significant ways if you send over a WAV file than an MP3. Does that make sense to everybody?
We can't see you now, so going on audio, so.
Awesome. Hey, everyone online. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. You can go to my website, DennisConnorsActor.com, and you can get in contact with me. I would love to answer any of your questions, especially if there's a job or there's something that could be a scam. I am very sensitive to that. Growing up, I fell victim to some scams when getting into acting because that's how the entertainment industry can work. So always, if you think it's a scam, if there's any questions about it, always feel free to contact me because I don't want you to get screwed in any significant way. So feel free to contact me, and I hope you have a lovely week. I hope that this session helped illuminate some pathways in the voiceover world. And I hope you had fun too.